Okay, so here is the tree and it's painted. I'll tell you why in a moment that it's painted. See that bud here in the top?
I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of buying budwood from us and talk about topworking mango trees. This would be a good scion for a budwood check. You do not need swelling buds, active buds, to have successful grafts. But amateur grafters, which is most of our customers, usually need the most ideal circumstances to get their grafts to take, and that bark will die as a consequence of that sunburn. This tree, when we cut it back, it had a huge canopy, and it, opened up all that sun right on top of that.
Hello everybody, welcome to Fruitful Trees. And you see this tree behind me, it has some grafts and it's painted. We're going to talk about this today. Today we're going to talk about how to top work a tree. And we're going to meet Alex at Tropical Acres Farms. It's a mango farm with over 300 varieties of mangoes on his farm. But we're going to be discussing today how he tops work his trees and how he finds budwood to top work those trees. This here is one of my cherry trees that I have, and it's one of the many mango trees that I have. And at first I loved cherry, but I lost the taste of the flavor for cherry. Now I know some of you love cherry trees and you just love the cherry mango, but for me, I wanted something different. And I do not have a lot of room. So Alex at Tropical Acres Farm let me taste a mango called an emerald mango. It's a tree that doesn't grow too big and tastes amazing, and not many people have it. So I wanted to top work it and move it over, and I'm going to show you what I did now. Okay, so here is the tree and it's painted. I'll tell you why in a moment that it's painted. But basically this tree came all the way out to here and all the way out to here. Now this is a tree that I kept small from the height, but it was very wide. As you can see, I cut some big branches off the sides. And it was very wide, taking up a lot of space, but it just wasn't gonna work for me. I wanted something different. So what I did was I first cut off most of the canopy. I still left a few on there, but I cut most of it off and I got grafts. And Alex gave me the budwood for four trees, for four grafts. This one he gave me, and he gave me this one, and then two more. Of the four, two of them didn't take and two of them did. And as you can see, here, right here is where I graft worked it, and it's coming out very nicely. I'm very happy with that. I'm very happy with that one, but the rest didn't take. So I still have one load of cherry on there, another load of cherry on there, and I'm saving that so I could do what I did here. And what I did was I got more budwood from Alex and I put on 4 more. So there's 1, there's 2 and 3, and on the other side is 4 of emerald to continue to let it grow. And I put the foil on here just to cover it up a little, but as you can see, it looks like it might have taken. You see that little bud here in the top? Let me get a good, see that bud here in the top? This is the new graft that I put on of emerald. So this one is still a cherry that I'm gonna take off, but I wanna leave it to graft more onto. And this is the new graft that I put on it that had taken. And then there's that one. So it's looking really good. There's videos below of how to add the budwood. I'll put that below that I did with Alex. And as we were discussing the tip pruning, this is coming out here. I'm gonna cut these here so they don't go out too long and come up too much. And there's another one. Now I did put another variety all the way at the end here, and I think this was the apricot or the Timor, just to have a second variety all the way at the end of this tree to see what would happen. And it actually took. I was surprised, but I'm happy about that. This will be another place to put more budwood. And that's what we're going to discuss today. How to move a different variety onto this tree. We'll be discussing that with Alex right now.
Hello everybody, I'm Alex at Tropical Acres Farms, and this is going to be our first week of the year selling mango budwood. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of buying budwood from us and talk about topworking mango trees into new varieties. So you can learn a little bit about what you can do with budwood in your own yard or on your own farm or whatever, what have you. So right here behind me is a tree that we are going to be topworking really soon, like this coming week. And I wanted to show everybody what kind of the ideal state of your stock, whether that's an in-ground tree or a rootstock in a pot that you're grafting to, what it looks like when you're trying to graft to it. Now, you can, in theory, graft at any state, okay, and grafts can take, but there is an optimal state that we like to use when we're topworking a stump or we're grafting to a rootstock, and that's when they're just starting to push out new growth. So Paul, you can come in here and we can show everybody. See all this new growth popping out of this canopy. So now this tree was before quite tall. It was taller than this tree right here probably, and had a big mass. It's a Namdok Mine number 4. We decided we did not need 2 Namdok Mine number 4 trees. We only need 1. We have 1 further down this row. And so in the interest of adding more varieties or adding more of varieties that we just need more canopy of, we decided last year to topwork this tree. So what we did was we cut it back to the scaffold limbs, which are these lower first primary branches that come out of the tree. And we did leave some foliage on it so that it could generate carbohydrates through photosynthesis and still feed its roots a little bit. But what happened is, and this is a normal response, we got all these new shoots coming out of this old stump. And we're going to be grafting to these new shoots pretty soon. And we're going to put as many grafts as we can of what we decide to turn it into. And it's going to kind of depend on what kind of budwood I find. I keep a list in my phone of varieties that I need to add more of because we just don't have enough budwood from the existing trees that we have. So I'll figure out in the next couple days what I'm going to turn this tree into. So there's a couple candidates right now. Varieties that people ask for a lot from us. They order them through our nursery or through our budwood program, and we just can't get enough budwood. So that's what's going to happen with this tree. So anyway, right now, if you go to our website, tropicalacresfarms.com, there is a page that you'll find in the navigation bar that you can go onto and request budwood from. And we do budwood checks once a week. We do them on Sundays this time of year. And we'll continue every Sunday checking people's lists until we just don't have time to do it, which happens usually at the peak of mango season. Unfortunately, we do have to pause budwood for a little while every year. But for at least the next month or so, we're going to be selling budwood, and that's how you can send a request list through us. And then when you submit your list, you pay a deposit, okay? And that deposit goes towards your first 2 scions that are in your order. And when we check your list on that Sunday evening or the next day on Monday, we send you an invoice which has all the ones that we found from your list that have active buds. And by active buds, what that means is we're checking your list for budwood that looks like, well, we'll find one here that's got kind of the optimal state here so you can see what we look for. This one's pretty good. So you see here, we've got these swelling buds, okay? This one has swelling axillary buds. So this would be a good scion for a budwood check. Now,
where is that?
Right here. See? These swelling axillary buds. Okay? So that's a good, nice, good scion that's got real active material. So if you decide that you don't need active buds and that you can use dormant material, okay, that would be something like this here, okay, this is still dormant. It hasn't really swollen up yet, and there's plenty of that everywhere because most trees will have a lot of dormant material at any given time. If you decide that you can graft with those, then there's a checkbox that you can check, and it will expand usually the amount of varieties and a number of scions that we can find for you. But if you don't feel comfortable using material that's not swelling, don't check that box, and we'll just check your list for swelling active buds. So, and then you have a couple days to pay the invoice, okay, because they are time sensitive. If a week goes by or something, they can flush growth, and then all of a sudden that scion's no good anymore for you to graft with. So you've got about 2 days or so to pay the invoice, and after that, if it's unpaid, it's voided. And remember that that deposit that you pay goes towards your invoice. If you do not pay the invoice, we keep the deposit, okay? So read the details on that page on our website, and it explains everything. But if you have any questions that go beyond the scope of that, feel free to email us and we'll answer them for you.
Okay, thank you. I got a bunch of questions that
Sure.
I know people are going to have. Number one, is there a price difference between the active and the inactive?
No, they're priced the same. So, yeah.
Why would somebody get the inactive if they're the same?
Well, if they feel confident in their grafting skill, we graft with dormant material all the time. So you do not need swelling buds, active buds, to have successful grafts. But amateur grafters, which is most of our customers, usually need the most ideal circumstances to get their grafts to take, or often need that. So that means, swelling buds. That means hopefully an active growing stock, a very sharp knife, and very sanitized tools and everything. So all that helps, towards
so
your
show us
rate
the
of
active bud again. What it
Yeah,
looks
sure.
like.
So this one here, see, these buds are swelling up, like getting ready to push. This can look different. So here we've got another active bud. This is a terminal bud, okay? The bud at the top is swelling up. Here's another one right here. This one's actually too far gone. But
Would that one that's too far gone be considered an inactive? I mean, a dormant?
No. At that point, actually, we won't collect something like that usually.
Because if they're
We'll
too
just
far
let it
gone,
flush
then
growth.
it's...
Yeah. A dormant one, they're not even pushing.
But too far gone, is there no chance, or it's just much less likely?
It's a pretty reduced one. I mean, like, we could cut that and use the material below it, but that bud that's already started to push, vast majority of the time when we graft that or you graft that, if it's too far gone, it will start to push and then it will just die. So we don't want that to happen, obviously. So we want people's grafts to take. So we try to get them before they've pushed too far.
All right. So when you say an amateur versus somebody that's used to doing the grafting,
yeah.
So it's not just a method, or is it just a method, or is it also which buds you're using? Because from what you said, it seems like no matter what bud you use, if you have the right method, and it's going to work.
Well, so I would say one of the issues with dormant material is that it takes longer for it to push. And the likelihood of a failure occurring, the longer it takes for that graft to push, is higher. So now, do we prefer swelling material when we're using Budwood? Sure. But a lot of times that's not an option. So as far as skill is concerned, skill comes down to things like your technique in terms of how you use your knife, how sharp is your knife, and a lot of people think their knife is sharp enough, and it's not, even though your knife feels very sharp. Dexterity and how you use your hands and fingers and stuff like that. So a lot goes into it. Most people become better at grafting with practice and more trial. So, but a lot of people, they start out and their rate of take's not very good. So the better opportunity they have for that graft to take, the more likely they're going to feel encouraged to keep trying and getting better. So, so that would be what I have to say about, like.
But the method is going to be the same regardless, right? They're going to, do they graft
possibly.
different?
There's lots of different. So there's lots of different grafting methods, right? And most people at home are going to be using cleft or veneer grafts, I would say. There's other kinds of grafts which I'm not going to get into on this video, but like, so the method's not always going to be the same. But there's other factors at play, like whether they're grafting to a stump or whether they're grafting to a rootstock. A lot of people that we're selling the material to are grafting to rootstocks and pots. So those can be a little trickier to graft with than grafting to a stump for top working. So another factor to consider.
Sure.
Okay.
So when you're grafting, top working a tree like this,
Yeah.
you cut off, it was that big, and you cut off all of it. Do you need to paint the tree when you cut the canopy this far?
Do you need to? Not necessarily. Do we recommend it? Yes. Or at least providing shade on the bark. Because what will happen if you don't, in many cases, is that bark that gets exposed after you take all this wonderful canopy off to top work your tree, it gets exposed to the sun for hours of day at the time, and it will cause sunburn on the bark, and that bark will die as a consequence of that sunburn, and you can get rotting wood, which is, decaying wood is not desirable on your tree. Opens it up to, potential infection by pathogens or termites or things like that. So you can either paint or whitewash the bark after you cut the tree back, and it works pretty well. I mean, like, you can still see some sunburn sometimes, but I've seen trees actually die from sunburn, essentially, and you don't want that to happen.
Well, I had a tree that I top worked, I painted, and it's fine, but I also cut back some of my trees last year, and now it looks like they're sunburned because I cut them back too far.
Yeah.
Is it useful to paint them now, or is it too late?
It's probably too late at this point, but I mean, like, there's no harm in doing it. But like, the damage is usually going to occur in like the days and weeks after you do the cut. So, it's probably, if it's cooked, it's already cooked.
Do you have an example of anywhere here of a sunburned tree?
Yeah, and so we got a tree that I top worked recently, and I did paint it. Perhaps not quick enough, or perhaps not thick enough, or whatever, but I can show some of the bark flaking off to show what it looks like.
Okay, before we go there, when you say not thick enough, when somebody does paint the tree, do they just use
I usually do 2 coats.
Do they use any type of house paint, or
white latex paint, or any latex paint?
Could it be any color, or does it have to be white?
It doesn't have to be white. White's usually cheap. You can get like a little can of it at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and if you want to whitewash to stretch the paint, you can do that too. Mix like 50-50 water and paint, or you can just do pure paint. I've seen people spray paint them too. That works, whatever. Just try not to get the paint on the leaves, because your leaves still have to be there to give you photosynthesis. So if you get the paint on the leaves, you're denying the roots any...
But as long as it's not oil-based paint, is that correct or no?
I don't know. I've not used oil-based paints for this before. I would think they're more expensive.
Yeah,
but
I'm saying if somebody has extra paint in their house...
Yeah, it would probably be okay. I'm not sure.
So 2 coats would be ideal?
Yeah, 2 coats.
Okay.
Yeah. So
all right.
We'll look at this tree over here that I had started. That I already did the grafts on this tree. And let me see if I can find the bark that is... I noticed some bark on this was sunburnt. Here we go, right here. So see this? You can see the splitting right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see I kind of missed this spot a bit, and it got sunburnt. So it happens.
Mine got it pretty bad, where you can see like it split completely, and you see the...
Yeah, it can be very severe, and it can be bad enough that the tree goes into decline or dies. So you do want to do better than I did in this case, sure, and get a better coverage on your bark. And obviously this tree, when we cut it back, it had a huge canopy, and it, opened up all that sun right on top of that bark.
Now, when that happens, is it beneficial to cut out the sunburned area? Does that help it at all, or no?
Yeah, in the long run, yes, because otherwise it will decay backwards. So a lot of times all you have to do is just cut that limb off, and it's fine. Sometimes they just break off on their own, and the rest of the tree's still healthy. I would say most cases that's what happens. So, but you do want to try to protect them, and if you don't want to paint them, you can put shade cloth over them too. That works.
Okay, but it won't stop it from growing?
No, usually, as long as it's not like 100% shade. I mean, it's not going to be, like you buy some shade cloth that from,
okay,
I don't know, an online source or something. It should work.
So now while we're at this tree, how many grafts did you put on this tree?
I think I put 11 on this tree.
So if somebody, let's say they have a tree, they want to change it over, they cut it back, should they order 11 Budwoods
No,
from
not
you? Or?
necessarily, especially if the stump was a lot. This was a decent sized stump. If it's a smaller stump, you can do, half that or something. You really only need a couple of them to take. My advice is put as many as you reasonably can. So I've had big stumps, and we've done videos on some of those stumps where I threw a lot of grafts on there, like 15 or more or something like that, which is kind of crazy. But like, I just wanted to get as many on there as I could before when I later had to start removing the growth coming below the grafts and just jumpstart the canopy as quick as I could. But you don't need to put that many on most stumps, especially if you've got an okay rate of take. If you're confident that you're going to get at least a couple to take, then you don't have to go too nuts. But we'll sell people as much budwood as they want to buy, obviously.
Sure. So last year I top worked one of my trees, and I got 4 scions from you.
Yeah.
2 of them took, 2 of them didn't. The 2 that took were growing great. And you said when they grow big enough, I could take scions from those new growths and use those.
Yes, you can do that. So if you have a stump and you put some grafts on it, maybe not enough of your grafts took, and you wanted to get more material to put on there, you can take scions off after those new ones flush and use them on other parts of the canopy or on another tree in your yard or whatever. I've actually done that before. Especially in cases where I didn't have a lot of access to that budwood. It was something that, I maybe had only a couple grafts on that one stump. I waited for them to grow and then took some more material off the grafts and put them on other parts of the same stump. I've done that, yes.
So last time when I spoke to you, we spoke about tip pruning. So when a new graft comes in and it starts growing, and it's growing long before it splits, would you tip prune that new graft?
Yeah, you would tip prune it initially maybe every 18 inches and then every 12. But yes, tip pruning is good because you get to start to shape out some canopy instead of letting it go leggy and lanky.
So even at new growth, don't let it grow more than like 18 inches.
18 inches is when I would start to tip it initially. And then as the canopy develops, you can reduce that down to every 12 inches of new flush.
Oh, great. Good point. All right. Well, it's below the link to grab those budwood.
Yeah, take advantage of mango scions while we have them available. We have a huge amount of varieties available on our list. Remember to read all the details so you understand how our process works. And keep in mind, we do stop selling mango scions at the end of August. And we do not sell them the rest of the year. We sell other budwood like sapodilla and avocado and mamey. We have some of those available right now, except for the avocados at the moment. So you can actually do a check for mango and sapodilla or mamey. Avocados will probably add again in a few weeks once they're finished flowering and setting fruit. So yes, if you have any questions for us, feel free to send us an email and we're happy to answer.
Is the process and information for avocados the same as the mangoes that we're discussing here?
No, because avocados actually graft pretty well without swelling material. So sometimes they do have a swelling bud when we clip them, but no, that swelling bud rule really only applies with mangoes when we're doing a budwood check. So remember that too.
Is there any ideal time for avocados?
Avocados actually graft best in the winter months here in Florida. I don't know how it is in other places, but
and for mangoes, when's the ideal time to put new grafts on? When you get the budwood?
In the warm months of the year, anywhere between March and October. Obviously, we don't sell budwood after August, but you can still graft after August. You can do it in the winter too. There's just a higher chance that the grafts might flower, and if it gets too cold, the rate of take can decline. But we do our grafting in the warm months of the year.
We know everyone wants the popular trees, but from the unpopular trees, what's the most popular budwood that people ask for?
Okay, from the most unpopular varieties, what do people ask for the most?
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, good question.
Because you have the unpopular ones, but a lot of people don't have them. Whereas the popular ones, everyone hears about them, they want them, but there's a lot of varieties that a lot of people
varieties that are unpopular because they're just not desirable.
No, because they're not known.
Oh, okay. Rare varieties that we get a lot of requests for. Okay, that's very different, right?
Yes.
Than like a mango not tasting very good and being unpopular for that reason.
No, rare.
Oh, we get tons of requests for Ceci Love. We get a lot of requests for Well, we would if we had it on there right now. We don't. We actually took several off the list because we don't have enough budwood to be selling it. But there's varieties like Mahmoud Vikarabad, Zil 4026, which I left on there by mistake, but it's about to come off. Those are a couple. We'll get a lot of requests for those if they're on the list. The problem is I don't have enough canopy to take budwood from those right now. So those are a few that like aren't so super well known, but they're sought after. And a lot of Zil P22 is another one that we get a lot of requests for. That's not super common. I mean, it's been grafted and stuff, and there's more than that too. But those ones pop to mind because like I was actually talking to my wife about them just yesterday.
Very cool. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing this important information. Everybody grab some budwood. And my suggestion is everybody practice with any budwood you can. Just
practice. More practice, the better off you'll be.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you very much, man. Your link's below.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. So for those of you that were wondering, well, why is the tree painted? After seeing that video, now you know why it's painted. To protect this tree from sunburn. And I'll show you the tree I mentioned in the video that wasn't protected and what the sunburn looks like. So this is my lemon meringue tree. And you can see here the tree got sunburned because I didn't protect it enough. And that's what that looks like. So we'll see if that's damage that's going to create a problem or not. But I had another tree where the same thing happened here. See that? So you want to make sure you protect your trees. But the tree we discussed today was this tree here. And that is the tree that I'm going to top work from a Kerry to an emerald. And with the new grafts now, as we were discussing the tip pruning, I'm going to cut these much shorter and have a nice tree grown here and start shaping out the tree. And hopefully have mangoes in this tree in a few years. All right, everybody, thank you for watching and hopefully learning. You can get budwood from any variety of tree you want that Alex has at Tropical Acres Farms. The link is below, and he is now selling budwood depending when you're seeing this video. But always check because you can order it at any time. And then when he has it available, he'll make sure you get it. I highly recommend it. It's a great thing to do in case you change your mind, or even if you want to add more. I could have kept the Kerry and just added more varieties, or some trees you could add 2 or 3 varieties. There's a whole nother science of doing that, but it's really fun and exciting to grow mango trees and to start experimenting with things like this as well. Alex at Tropical Acres Farms, thank you so much for providing such a great service in teaching and also in mangoes. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe. The link is below. If you want me to come out and feature your yard on my channel, please contact me. My email address is below. Until then, everybody, have a great day and keep growing.